Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillahi ala ni'matul islami wa kafa biha ni'ma. All praise and gratitude be to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on His blessing of Islam, which suffices as a blessing. I'd like to welcome you on the 25th para. So we're going to begin 25th para inshallah today. We were at Surah Hamim Sajda and we had done up to ayat number 46. So we'll start with ayat number 47. Hamim Sajda is also called Surah Fusilat. That's another name. It's all about faith building over here. So let's just begin with ayat 47. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Ilayhi yuraddu ilmu sa'a wa ma takhruju min thamarati min akmamiha wa ma tahmilu min untha wa la tadau illa bi ilmi. In the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the most merciful. To Him alone is referred the knowledge of the hour. No fruit comes out of their covering, nor does a female bear, nor does she deliver it, but with His knowledge. And remember the day when He will call them, where are my partners? And they will say, we declare to you that none of us is a witness. So let's just look at this, one of the reasons why Quran continuously stresses on some of the attributes of Allah. Here sometimes zulm, which is injustice that is done by people, is done because of lack of knowledge. And that is why repeatedly Quran actually reminds people of this attribute of Al-Alim, which comes in this ayat also, that he has full knowledge about everything, about the intentions of people and about the reason why they are doing what they are doing. So He has knowledge of all from time when the Qiyamah will come, which will only come once, and we all know that, to the routine things like ripening of the fruit as to when the fruit will ripen, which is a very common phenomena, happens all the time in all seasons, but all in His knowledge. What came out of the egg of an ant to what an insan gave to birth, everything is part of His knowledge. He knows everything. The last part of this ayat talks about, and where are my partners, and remember the day when He will call, where are my partners. So making partners with Allah, knowing that He is all Alim, is such an act of immense foolishness. It's an act of immense foolishness, because on the Day of Judgment, such partners will have neither any authority nor any power. Whatever they used to invoke earlier will vanish from them, and they will know for certain that there is no place for refuge. So all these self-created gods will ditch them in the hour when they will need them most. Man does not get weary of praying for good, and if ill touches him, he is despairing, hopeless. So this is an attitude of kind of unthankfulness, ungratefulness. The attitude of this is an extreme attitude. When people become upset, they become hopeless. So people are actually swinging from deep exuberance to deep despondency. And indeed, if we give him a taste of some mercy from us after some hardship had touched him, he will surely say, this is my right. And I do not think that the hour will establish. And even if I am brought back to my Rabb, I will surely get the best from Him. But we will most certainly inform those who disbelieve of what they did, and we will most certainly make them taste a stern punishment. So people have this kind of a self-congratulatory attitude, right? They'll admire their own success, they'll admire their own achievement. Now, in every state, in this state, they will be distant from Allah because there will be no shukr with them. They will be distant from the rahmat of Allah, neither shukr. And when difficulty and hardship touches them, they will despair, so there is no sabr. And the reason Quran states over here is because they feel, I don't think that the hour will be established, no fear of accountability, because it's this fear of accountability that bounds people together. People do not want any rule to be imposed on them. So therefore, if there is no belief in the hereafter, they have no restrictions. Every time you think I'm accountable for my actions, this imposes a restriction. You will think about your good times and bad times because it imposes a restriction on people. But this Quran says, look, it doesn't make any difference. It doesn't change anything. Your denying or not denying Qiyamah is not going to make any difference because Qiyamah is bound to come. Belief or disbelief of people will have no effect on its coming. When we bestowed our favor upon man, he turns aside and withdraws himself. And when some evil touches him, he becomes the one to make lengthy prayers. So this is the inner psychology of people being described over here, because recognition of Allah And as our creator, this is natural, this is there inside all of us, that people do call him when they are in a state of distress. And this is the gila. This is what Quran actually, this is what Allah keeps mentioning all the time. In difficulty, when evil touches you, you have lengthy prayers. You'll get up at the tahajjud, you'll say all your prayers. But when when times are good, at that time that this thankfulness is missing. So this obedience and loyalties and thanks, people start to miss them. There is no gratitude when such people are having a good time. Even atheists, even agnostics, when they are on their deathbed or when they are in a state of deep difficulty or deep danger, they will only call, oh God, forgive me, oh God, help me. Even they will do that. Say, have you considered if it is from Allah and still you reject it, then who can be more erroneous than him who is involved in far-reaching stubbornness? Quran asks a very simple question. Have you really considered the consequences of denying? What a big risk that you are taking. This denial that you are doing is really not based on any logic or any thinking or any rational. The risk is far weighs the small gain that you're going to be making. But people are just denying for the sake of it. Sometimes people say, be devil's advocate. Never be a devil's advocate. Because at the end of the day, if the devil wins, it's the devil who has a victory. Soon we will show them our signs in the universe and within their own beings until it becomes manifest to them that that is the truth. Is it not enough that your Rabb is a witness over all things? So when Quran was revealed, it was considered to be a miracle. And why was it considered to be a miracle? Because it was a book of eloquence, and it was a book of captivating language. Today, when telescopes can see the universe and microscopes can see things that are close to us, Quran is a further miracle, because scientifically, intellectually, morally, legally, the perfect balance, the justice that's provided in this book, that itself shows that this is a book which could not possibly have been written by any individual. It is a book from Allah. And why am I saying why is it a miracle? Because there are so many scientific facts in this book of Quran. And science has made so much progress. When we look at embryology, when we look at astrology, when we look at the beginning of the universe, when we look at photosynthesis of how plants grow, this scientific progress itself is proving that Quran is the truth. And people will have to ultimately let go of their blind prejudice. Beware, they are in doubt about meeting their Rabb. Beware, He is the one who encompasses everything. He is the one who surrounds. So despite all these signs, yet if people do not believe, this is because their faith is missing, that one day they will be standing alone in front of their Creator. Next surah we begin, and this is Surah Shura. Shura means consultation or mutual consultation. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, in the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the most merciful. Ham, Mim, Ain, Sin, Qaf. So you can see 5 huruf-e-muqattat in 2 surahs being used over here, 2 ayahs being used over here. There are only, there are only 2 surahs which have 5 huruf-e-muqattat, and that's interesting. This is Surah Shura, which we are going to start now, and then Surah Maryam, because Surah Maryam also has 5 muqattat, which is Kaf, Ha, Ya, Ain, Swad. That's the, those are the muqattat that are used in Surah Maryam. Kazalika yuha ilayka wa ila allazina min qablika Allahul Azizul Hakim. This is how Allah, the Mighty, the Wise, who sends revelations to you and those who were before you. Now this is in response to a question that people would ask, that why doesn't the angel bring revelation directly on us? Bani Israel also demanded similar thing from Hazrat Musa alayhi salam. Allah is the Aziz, He is the all-powerful. He can reveal His kalam on each individual if He chooses to do so. But Allah is also wise, He is also Hakim, He has all the wisdom. And part of His wisdom is that He reveals His word to mankind through His chosen messengers. Now, quite honestly, if this kalam had been revealed on each individual, then each person would have interpreted it according to his own understanding. Hence, Hence Allah gave only one man, which is the messenger, given the authority to him to receive the message and subsequently to put it into the real practice. So it's by demonstration, which is the practical implementation of this book. And these people are known as the messengers of Allah. Often we hear people assert that we can, we can read the Quran. We can self-read the Quran and understand this book. Now, if this was possible, then there was no need for the messengers. Allah could have just revealed this book without any message. So this is the mizaj of Quran. This is the mizaj of Quran, that it is best understood through a teacher. And our teacher was who? Our teacher was our Prophet ﷺ. Hence, if we want to clearly understand this book, then we have to refer it back to the teacher, and that teacher described. It is through his words of our teacher, and those words of our teacher are called the hadiths. To him belongs all that is in the heavens and all that is in the earth, and he is the high, the supreme. So a very important attribute of Allah over here being described, Allah is the highest, the greatest. No man has a maqam or position that he can converse with Allah face to face, or that someone feels that Allah should communicate to him with him directly. Now, when some people have this desire that Allah communicates to them directly, this is also a kind of a pride. This is also a kind of a takabbur. The heavens above them are nearly torn apart, while the angels glorify the praise of their Rabb and ask forgiveness for those on the earth. Beware, surely Allah is the most forgiving, the merciful. So here Quran says the tearing apart of the universe. Now, from a scientific point of view, this ayat is widely interpreted by different scholars. And one of the way, when you look at the scientific evidence of this, that there is so much in this universe, that this universe under its own weight, it is as if the universe is about to tear apart. There's so much of matter in this universe, there's so much of gravitational force that it is almost as if the universe is tearing itself apart. And those who have adopted patrons instead of him, Allah is on watch against them, and you are not responsible for them. So if people put their trust on anything, if we put our trust on anything besides Allah, please know that you will be disappointed in this world and in the hereafter. Those who make partners with Allah, these will neither help them, neither give them anything in this world, and certainly nothing in the hereafter. People spend so much time, people spend so much money, people spend so much effort trying to please these partners. They go at lengths of inconvenience to their own selves. They go and supplicate to these dead peers. They supplicate to the living peers. They put on all sorts of tabiz. They have all sorts of deities in their house, the horseshoe and other things, thinking that this is going to bring luck to them. Nothing brings luck. Nothing brings misfortune. Please remember, everything is in the power of Allah. There are no patrons for any Muslim. So if this time and money that people use and the effort that people use, they spend is spent for making Allah happy, for making him happy, they will get so much return in this world and even a greater return in the hereafter. And thus we have revealed to you an Arabic Quran so that you may warn the mother cities and those around it, and warn them of the day of gathering about which there is no doubt, when one group of people will be in paradise and another group in the blazing fire. The word that is used over here, Ummul Qura means the central city, the mother city, the capital city. It refers to Makkah. So what this ayat is telling us is, imagine Makkah as the center, and then its surrounding, ever increasing, ever expanding circle which covers the entire globe. Had Allah willed, He definitely could have made them a single community, but He admits whomsoever He wills into His mercy. As for the wrongdoer, they shall have neither a patron nor a helper. People often think why mankind is not a single community. There would be no conflict, right, if we were all one community. If Allah willed, He could do that. Like He could make the mountains, the planets, the galaxies, it's very easy for Him to make mankind a single community. But they all, every creation of Allah, the mountains and the galaxies and the planets, they all behave in a similar manner. And what is that manner? They are all obedient to Allah. But human beings are different from rest of the creation. Man has been given the responsibility and he has also been given the authority. He's been made the Khalifa on this world. So therefore, there is certain amount of free will. There is a certain amount of free choice that is there. He can use this authority with responsibility, with guidance that he has received from Allah, or he can use his authority by being irresponsible and careless. And that is the test for man. That this world is a testing place, given them free choice and free will, and then test him. So we are all being tested, and we need to act whether we act in the righteous manner or not, in the right manner or not. So this is the reason why Allah did not make man a single community. Or have they adopted patrons instead of him? So it is Allah who is the patron, and he gives life to dead, and he is powerful to do everything. Put your trust on Allah. Make him your karsaz. Make him your friend. He gives life and he also gives death. Like kufr is referred as death and iman as life. So even the most deviant lifestyle, he can revive. If someone sincerely asks Allah, he can bring iman back to the most deviant person that you can think of. Like he can bring life to any creation. I mean, any dead creation, if Allah wants, he can give life to it. And whatever dispute you have in any matter, its judgment lays with Allah. Such is Allah, my Rabb. In him I put my trust, and to him alone I turn. Where there is akal and choice, it is understood that there will be differences. As long as these differences remain within bounds, they can be positive. Knowledge spreads because of differences. You improve things because of conflict, because of better results result when there is a healthy difference. When differences are healthy, it will always result in some progress. So Islam does not prohibit differences. It does not stifle difference of opinion, but the aim should be improvement. But when our egos enter and the tug of war begins, then sincerity is the first casualty, and these differences become destructive. How can this be achieved? How can this be achieved that while we do have differences, it is still a positive? Keep Allah in focus. Keeping Allah in focus all the time. Don't let differences become dispute. Look for truth, whatever that truth is, from wherever it is coming, from whoever it is coming from. Look at the truth, not at the person. He is the originator of heavens and earth. He has made you pairs from among yourselves and pairs from the cattle. He multiplies you in that way. Nothing is like him, and he is the all-hearing, the all-seeing. Pairs that Quran talks about over here, pairs are made so they can complement each other. Man is incomplete without woman. They combine to serve a purpose. Both are vital part of the chain. But Quran says, Laisa kamithlihi shay'un, there is nothing like Allah. There is nothing like him. There is nothing like, he is incomparable, he is unique, who transcends any definition. No image can be created of Allah. Because anytime someone creates an image of Allah, he will end up becoming an associate. That image will become an associate to Allah. So the hand and the face of Allah that are referred in Quran, they are all mutashabihats. They are all mutashabihat, not at all to our concept of hand and face as our hand and faces. To him belongs the key of the heavens and the earth. He extends provisions to whomsoever he wills and restricts. Surely he is the knowing of all things. So Allah is in control of everything. He who asks for guidance gets guidance. He who follows misguidance, he will find misguidance. He has ordained for you the religion that he has ordained upon Nuh, and that which we ordained to you, and that which we had ordained upon Ibrahim and Musa and Isa, that establish the deen and be not divided therein. Hard upon the mushrik is what you call them to. Allah chooses for himself whom he pleases and guides to himself anyone who turns to him. So Allah, all the prophets that are there, Allah had given them the same religion. And that religion is what? That religion is the religion of Islam. Islam is really not a noun. Islam is a verb. It's a religion of submission. It's all about submission. All these prophets were Muslims because they submitted to the will of Allah. They were obedient to him. So the constitution is the same. Some laws may differ. So basic laws given to all the messenger are the same law. And some differences, there are, like I said, that there are some differences in Sharia in the way, because of different types of history. Mankind was different intellectually. And they did not split until after knowledge had come to them out of envy between them. Had it not been for a word that had come forth earlier from your Rabb, until a specific time, the matter would have been decided between them. And those who were made to inherit the book after them are surely in confounding doubt about it. So when differences, when freedom of choice and ego are mixed together, so this is the time when differences start to become disputes. Freedom of choice and ego mixed. When differences increase beyond limits, they become disputes. Truth goes into the background, energy is spent on irrelevant issues. This does not mean that one does not have to take a stand on anything. We need to take stand, and we need to learn to manage conflicts. We need to learn conflict resolution. So to that then you invite, and be steadfast as you are commanded, and do not follow their desires, and say, I believe in what Allah has sent down from the book, and I have been commanded to do justice among you. Allah is our Rabb and your Rabb. For us are our deeds, and for you your deeds. There is no argument between us and you. Allah will bring us together, and to Him is the return. When there is a call to this book, where truth is proclaimed, there is a reaction in the society. Disputes arise. There will be disputes. There will be resistance. Be steadfast. That's what Quran is telling us. Face the situation gracefully. This deen is not about personal likes and dislikes, what my whims and fancies are. This deen is all about obedience to the hukum of Allah. Those who argue concerning Allah after He has been accepted, their arguments are void in the sight of Allah, and upon them is the wrath, and for them is a severe punishment. So this ayat is referring to people who come into faith but do not abide by the rules and regulations. Allah is the one who has sent down the book with truth and the balance as well. And what will make you understand that maybe the hour is near? So everything revealed in the book of Quran is revealed with truth. When we judge as to what is truth and what is falsehood, what is good and what is evil, we need to use this book as the standard, as the criterion. Those who do not believe in it demand that it should come soon, and those who believe are fearful of it, and they know for sure that it is the truth. Beware that those who dispute concerning the hour, they are indeed far astray. Who does not accept this book? And that's what Quran is really telling us. The one who has no yaqeen, one who has no faith, no belief in the hereafter. Such people are not concerned about truth. They are only interested in following their own desires and to act on their own nafs and desires. Allah is gracious to His slaves. He gives provision to whom He wills, and He is the strong, the mighty. Whoever intends to have the harvest of the hereafter, we will increase his hereafter, and whoever intends to have the harvest of the world, we will give him from it, while in the hereafter he shall have no share. There's a very famous hadith, I think one of the most famous hadiths, innamal a'malu bin niyat. Actions are based on intentions. So some deeds will receive reward in this world if intention has been to gain the world, right? So reward will be in form of popularity, in form of fame, in form of respect, in form of wealth. Like a person offering prayers so that he may be regarded as righteous, he gets the recognition, but then no reward in the hereafter. So it's extremely important for us. It's extremely important for us that we must keep our intentions right. It's a lot easier to do good deeds, but it's a lot more difficult to protect our intention, and that's a real challenge. Okay, and then what are the righteous deeds that the Quran constantly reminds us and talks about? Well, righteous deeds are deeds done for the sake of Allah. Righteous deeds are done for Allah, for His pleasure, for making Him happy, in the way prescribed and following the way of our Prophet, and then expecting a reward in the hereafter. Is it that they have partners who have prescribed for them a religion that was not sanctioned by Allah? Had it not been for the decisive word, the matter would have been decided between them, and surely for the wrongdoers there is a painful punishment. So all partners, all the partner people make, the deities, the gods and the goddesses and the tabis and the peers and whatever, they neither provide any guidance, and they provide no way of how to be successful in this world and how to be successful in the hereafter. You will see the wrongdoers fearful of what they earned, and it is sure to befall them. As for those who believed and did righteous deeds, they will be in the meadows of the gardens. For them there is with their Rabb whatever they wish, and that is a great and that is the greatest bounty. We want the best of everything in this world, right? For this world we want the best. For eternal life we also need to search for the best. Our effort should be not just bare minimum, just for passing and entering into paradise. Our effort should be far more than that. That is the good news that Allah gives to His slaves who believe and did righteous deeds. Say, I do not ask you for any reward for it except the love of kingships. And whoever performs a good act, we will increase for him goodness therein. Surely Allah is the most forgiving, appreciative. Now, perhaps this ayat has a different interpretation and meanings. I'm going to only give you one. Perhaps this ayat is really referring to our Prophet ﷺ's relatives in Makkah who were in the front, who were really leading in the front in persecuting and creating trouble and ill-treating our Prophet ﷺ. They were right in the front. So, which was even against the norms of the Makkan society, even against the norm of the Arab society at that time. So it's a kind of an appeal from our Prophet ﷺ being narrated over here, that if you are not helping, at least don't become a hurdle and make things more difficult for him. Is it that they say he has forged a lie against Allah? So if Allah willed, He could seal your hearts, and Allah wipes out falsehood and establishes truth with His word. Surely He is fully aware of what lies in the hearts. The actual address is to the kuffar, that Quran was not revealed on our Prophet ﷺ because our Prophet desired that. This was the will of Allah. And He is the one who accepts repentance from His slaves and forgives evil deeds and knows whatever you do. So the door of Tawbah is always open, meaning open means till the time that we are alive. And He responds to the prayers of those who believe and do righteous deeds and gives them more out of His grace. As for the disbelievers, for them there is a severe punishment. So those who follow the rules will be rewarded, and those who break them intentionally after knowledge had come to them, obviously they will be punished. They're being regarded as a criminal over here. So, expecting maghfirat while continuing to have a sinful way of life and to continue to transgression and be disobedient to Allah, and still expect that Allah will forgive and there will be maghfirat, is kind of a futile concept. Should Allah expend the provisions for His servants, they would certainly rebel on the earth, but He sends down what He wills in due measure. Surely with regards to His slaves, He is all aware, ever watchful. So the Creator, the Rabb, knows how much should be given to His righteous slaves. In whatever righteous people have been given lies His betterment. One who is poor, this must be for his own good, and richness is really a rahmat from Allah. And He is the one who sends down rain after they have lost hope, and He spreads His mercy, and He is the guardian worthy of all praises. So sometimes our prayers are delayed, and as a result people begin to despair, and then His rahmat brings the rain. I mean, we often see that in Karachi in the hot summer. People say, well, there'll be no rain this year, I don't think it's going to rain, and then suddenly the rain do come about. Among His signs is the creation of the heavens and the earth and the creatures He has spread in them. He is powerful to assemble them whenever He so wills. So on the day of resurrection, not only man but also all the animals, all the creatures will be gathered, and even they will take revenge from each other if they have done zulm on each other. But for the humans, there is accountability and then return of the deeds of, the deeds that have been done. Whatever affliction befalls you is because of what your own hands have committed, and He overlooks a lot. Message over here is you are 100% responsible for your own life. Check your own deeds. Check your own deeds. You are not able to frustrate in the earth, and besides Allah, you have neither someone to protect nor someone to help. And among His signs are ships in the sea like mountains. If so He wills, He may stop the wind and they stand still on its surface. Surely in this there are signs for everyone who is ever patient, most grateful. Allah made the law. He gave the ability to water to bear the load, the weight of the ship. Whenever man invents is not his own credit, nor are they accidental. These are just signs of Allah. All these creation are signs of Allah, including the ship. So Newton saw the apple, and Newton saw the apple falling. How did he really get the idea that there is a force of gravity that's pulling the apple down? Who put this idea in his mind? Surely people had been seeing apples fall for a long time, right? Every time an apple is thrown down from the tree, it falls down. People saw that. But Newton, discovering this law, how much benefit it has been for mankind, there's just the discovery of this law of gravity. So Newton discovered the law of gravity, so we give him credit, but Allah created the law of gravity. So give Allah also His due credit. As long as Allah wills, these laws will be beneficial. And when He wants, these laws can actually destroy life, like plane crashing, like the Titanic and the ship sinking. All this points to what? It points to the azmat of Allah. Or He may destroy them because of what they earned, and He overlooks a lot. So Allah forgives. He lets man utilize his creation for his own benefit, for man's benefit. And when Allah wills, He uses His creation to punish and destroy mankind. And in such an event, those who raise dispute in our verses will come to know that there is no refuge for them. So whatever you have been given is a provision of the worldly life, and that which is with Allah is much better and much more durable for those who believe and place their trust in their Rabb. So when Allah has made so many physical laws for benefit of mankind, similarly He has also provided Sharia and moral laws. Think if a man had been denying and fighting the physical laws up till now. Imagine man had been questioning why gravity pulls us down. There would be no progress. We would probably be still living in caves. Similarly, there are moral laws with which man is in constant battle. So instead of opposing the moral laws that Allah has sent down, we need to accept them and use them for our own benefit. And for those who abstain from major sin and from shameful acts, for those who, when they are angry, they forgive. So, Gunai Kabira is being are something. And what are Gunai Kabira? What are major sins? Like shirk, disobedience of parents, riba, eating away the wealth of orphans, being a false witness. These are all Gunai Kabira. And fahsha, the word from shameful acts that's being used away. Fahsha is anything or any act which takes man closer, or rather encourages zina. Then Quran talks about, and when they get angry, they forgive. Now, to be angry is natural. Quran doesn't say, it's not saying you don't become angry at all. But what Quran is saying, when you are angry, don't let your steam out. What will you really achieve by letting your steam out? Nothing but bitterness. We think this is a sign of great efficiency and competence, right? That we have to be harsh and angry at our subordinate whenever they make a mistake, in order that they work efficiently. This is a false concept. This is a wrong concept. People do not correct. Anger is perhaps the biggest spoiler of a married life relationship. The true nature of a man actually becomes visible when he is angry. So rather than venting out anger, how about controlling it? Mind our language, mind our tone. This control is a sign of a toughness of a man or a woman. And the best way is to refrain is stop speaking, don't speak. Refrain from speaking when you are angry. Just don't speak. And those who have responded to their Rabb and have established Salah and whose affairs are settled with mutual consultation between them. So this is وَأَمْرُهُمْ shura bainahum, which is the center part of this ayat that it comes over here, that whose affairs are settled with mutual consultation between them, and who spend out of what we have given to them. So people who have done tawakkul on Allah, established prayers, and before making a major decision, they consult. They do shura, they consult with each other. So begin this from your home. When a husband and wife consult each other, there is always a mutual trust and there will always be mutual confidence. And those who, when they are subjected to aggression, defend themselves. So Quran stresses on forgiveness. There's no doubt Quran says forgive people. Allah is the most forgiving. You must also learn to forgive. But if someone seeks forgiveness, forgive him. If subjected to injustice and zulm, revenge could be taken and must be taken, should be taken. Prophet ﷺ was asked, how can we help a zalim? And he said, stop him from doing zulm. So stopping someone from committing zulm is also a great mercy. And recompense of the evil is the evil like it. Then the one who forgives and opts to compromise, his reward is on Allah. Surely He does not like the unjust. So if by forgiving there is a chance of improvement of Islah, then forgive. We also ask Allah for forgiveness, right? We want Allah to forgive all our past sins. So we also must have developed this attitude of forgiving other people. The one who defends himself after being oppressed, there is no blame on such people. So no blame on the one who takes revenge. Islam does not want its followers to be in a state of being mazloom, to be defenseless, to be feeble, because this leads to broken personalities. Blame, in fact, is upon those who oppress people and revolt on the earth unjustly. Those shall have a painful punishment. So doing zulm on people, not giving them their due rights, this creates fasad on the earth. If in the world such people escape punishment, it doesn't mean that they have gone scotch-free. In the hereafter, they will suffer a severe punishment. Hence, Akhirat is a great mercy of Allah, so that the transgressors can be paid back for the zulm that they had committed. And indeed, the one who is patient and forgives, surely that is true fortitude. So one who forgives, particularly when he is in a position of strength, when he can take revenge, will receive a great reward from Allah. The one who Allah lets go astray, he has no guardian after him. And you will see the wrongdoers when they will see the punishment, that they will say, is there any way of return? So this is a law of guidance and the law of misguidance described in Quran. He who desires guidance and then asks Allah, then strives with time, with energy, with wealth, with effort, to such people Allah will give guidance. Those who desire misguidance, Allah leaves them on the path of their choice. These people have chosen that path. He does not force anyone. Allah will never force anyone. Every other ni'mat that has been given to us has been given to us without our asking. But guidance is the only ni'mat. Guidance is the ni'mat which is only given to those people who ask for it. And you shall be brought upon it, made humble by disgrace, looking with faint glance. And those who believe will say, the real losers are those who have lost their own selves and their families on the day of judgment. Beware, certainly, that the wrongdoers are in a lasting punishment. Where is one going? I think we also really need to understand this. Where is one going? Man begins to prepare in advance for where he is going. So if you are taking a journey, if you are traveling, you're going to pack your suitcase well before the journey. If all that is being collected for the journey and for the future is sinful deeds, then it is clear that the preparations are being made to travel to a terrible place. For them, there will not be any friends who may help them besides Allah, and the one whom Allah lets go astray, for him there is no way. Respond to your Rabb before there comes a day for which there will be no reversal from Allah's side. For you there will be neither a refuge that day nor a chance of denial. So respond to the call of Allah. What is Allah calling people to? What is Allah calling people to? Bring Iman. Put your trust on Him. Be steadfast. Allah knows well who is sincerely trying. Allah knows fully well who is pretending. And Allah also knows who is not even pretending. So if they turn away, then we did not send you as a guardian over them. On you is only to deliver. And surely when we make man taste mercy from us, he rejoices with it. And if an evil befalls them because of what their hands had sent ahead, then surely man becomes ungrateful. So if people do not take a step to change, that's fine, it's their funeral. Consolation being given to the Prophet, don't be disheartened. Don't be disheartened. Your take is just to deliver the message. Don't make a compromise, the true message of Allah, just deliver it to people. To Allah belongs the kingdom of the heavens and the earth. He creates what He wills. He creates females. He grants female to whom He wills and grants male to whom He wills. Or He combines for them couples, both males and females, and makes whom He will barren. Surely He is all-knowing, all-powerful. So I think after preservation of self, the next most potent motive in man is the preservation of species. So there is a desire, this desire of children is very strong in men and women, and here it is made clear that being given children is in the power of Allah alone. So no woman can be blamed for it. This is really not dependent on the ability of a man or a woman, or science or peer or mazar or anything else. No doctor can, on his own choice can make a test tube baby. If Allah has not given someone children, doesn't really mean that he's unhappy. This is a way of testing people in this world. And if we have children, we need to make this dua that whether we have a son or a daughter, it makes no difference. Allah makes them a sadqa jariyah for us. They are equal. As long as they are a sadqa jariyah for us, whether it's a son or a daughter, that we can earn hereafter through the deeds of our good children. And that's a good fortune. It's not a son or a daughter. The real good fortune is that they are righteous children, to have righteous children. It is not for any mortal that Allah speaks to him except by way of revelation or from behind the veil, or that He sends down a messenger and He reveals with His permission what He wills. Surely He is all high, all wise. So three types of wahi being described over here. First wahi, first revelation. Next wahi from behind the curtains, or angels sent with wahi to the messengers. Now the second one is the kalam behind the curtain. And that is how Allah communicated with Hazrat Musa alayhi salam, and that is how Allah communicated during the journey of our Prophet ﷺ to heavens, which is called the Miraj. In similar way, we have revealed to you a spirit or an inspiration from our command. You did not know earlier what was the book or what was faith, but we have made it a light with which we guide whomsoever we will from among our slaves. And indeed, you are guiding people to a straight path. So Allah makes very clear that the iman one gets is the iman one gets from Quran. If you want true iman, you get it only from Quran. So the messenger was given iman, how? He was given iman through this book, through the revelation. He did not know before. He didn't know the Quran before. Therefore, He provided guidance to rest of mankind through this book. So whoever from amongst us is looking for iman, he will have to turn his attention to the Quran. If Prophet got iman through Quran, we cannot get it from any other source. The path of Allah, the one to whom belongs all that is in the heavens and all that is in the earth, beware that towards Allah all matters shall finally return. Let's begin with the next surah. We'll do up to ayat number 25, Surah Zukhruf. Zukhruf literally means ornamentation or gold, something that shines. So, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, in the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the most merciful. Ha Mim, so two huruf muqattat coming over here. Wal Kitabil Mubin, by the manifest book, the bright and the clear book. It's a Mubin book, it's a clear book, it's a bright book. One who reads it for guidance will have no problem. the path will become clear from him, the darkness will lift, the suspicions and the doubts will go away. And we have made it an Arabic Quran so that you may understand. So Allah sent His Wahi in Arabic as a means of communication to reach mankind. And surely it is in the mother of the books, the preserved tablets with us, truly elevated, full of wisdom. So the word that comes over here, Kitab, literally means mother or foundation. So the original book, we have a copy of that. This is the true copy. The original is in Lawh-e Mahfuz. Shall we then turn away the reminder from you because you are a transgressing nation? Now, if some people are not interested in hearing, it doesn't mean that Allah will stop the revelation. There are many who are keen and waiting for the revelation. How many prophets we have sent to the earlier people? No messenger came to them, but they used to mock at him. So at all times in history, messengers have been ridiculed. Even today, we see all these comedy movies, the jokes, the cartoons, all about messengers. What this does is when people actually start to use religion and messengers in cartoons and jokes and movies, what this does is that then no sanctity remains, nothing holy remains, nothing sacred remains. So we have destroyed those who were stronger than them in grip, and the example of the earlier people has gone before. Should you ask them as to who has created the heavens and the earth, they will certainly say they are created by the Almighty, the All-Knowing. So in creation, people don't make associate. Nobody says my peer, my tabiz, my deity, my Buddha made this anything in this world. Everyone says, no one will say that it's the associates made that. But in running the affairs and decision making, they make many associates. The one who has made the earth a cradle for you and has made for you pathway therein so that you may be guided. And the one who has sent down water from the sky in due measure, and then we revived with it the dead town. In the same way, you will be brought forth. And the one who has created all pairs and made for you ships and cattle that you ride on, so that you may mount upon their backs, then recall the favors of your Rabb after having mounted upon it and say, glory be to the one who has subjugated this for us, and we could not have harnessed this. So the last part of this ayat, وَتَقُولُ سُبْحَانَ الَّذِي سَخَّرَ لَنَا هَذَا وَمَا كُنَّا لَهُ مُقْرِنِينَ. This ayat comes in from here, that and the translation I'd already given to you, and say, glory be to the one who has subjugated this for us, and we could not have harnessed this. Now, you can see that Quran teaches us etiquettes and manners in everything. There are etiquettes for eating that Quran teaches, of drinking, of sleeping, and even in travel. So Quran says, read this dua, so that man does not become proud. Transport is a great status symbol. It's like in olden times, they used to have these marked horses, and that would be the sign of wealth of people. Today, it's the brand and the model of the car, right? That shows how rich a person is. So there is a chance that one becomes haughty and proud with regards to those who are riding in an expensive car. They think we are better for any reason. People start to give them more izzat than someone who is actually going on a motorcycle. They give more izzat to someone who's riding in an expensive car. Importance in the eyes of Allah is not what people are riding on, but it is where people are going. So imagine, what is the value near Allah of a man who is riding his new shining private jet and he's going to Las Vegas for gambling? Equally, someone who is going for Fajr prayer on a motorcycle, imagine what would his position be or value be in the eyes of Allah. People can get impressed, but Allah doesn't get impressed. So regarding regard conveyance as a nemat of Allah. Be conscious of the hisab that will be given for every nemat that Allah has given us. وَإِنَّا إِلَىٰ رَبِّنَا لَمُنْقَلِبُونَ. And of course, towards our Rabb, we have to return. That's the journey. That's the destination that must be kept in mind. That's something that you need to focus on. Have they assigned to him a portion of his slaves? Surely man is clearly ungrateful. So making man a part of Allah is like making man God, and this is nothing but shirk. Is it that he has adopted daughters from those whom he has created and chosen you for having sons? So Quran reminds of this paradox, referring to sons for themselves and assigning daughters to Allah. When one of them is given the good news, now mark the word good news. When one of them is given the good news of the birth of that which he has attributed to Rahman, his face turns black and he becomes choked with sorrow. Now this is a standard reaction in every Jahili society. In every Jahili society, one of the key features is that women are considered to be inferior and degraded. Look at India, look at the Hindu religion, how they regard women, what kind of regard they have for women. Or even, to a large extent, even West, how they have, degraded women, made them an object for selling all the products. And compare the kind of honor that Islam gives to them. Is then one brought up in jewelry and the one and which in contention is unable to make clear speech. These are not words. These are, Allah is quoting from these people, from the Jahili society. This is what people are saying, and that's what Allah is quoting over here. So please don't, women should not think that this is something that, a kind of a stain upon them in Quran. This is the words of the Jahili society. And they made the angels who are slaves of the Rahman as female. Have they witnessed their creation? Their testimony will be recorded and they will be questioned. They say, had the Rahman so willed, we would not have worshipped them. They have no knowledge of that. They do nothing but conjecture. So this senseless argument, Quran says this is they say that if Rahman had so willed, they would have not worshipped them. This is a useless argument. Every thief, every murderer can use this logic that if Allah had not liked, I would have not gone in and stolen things. I would not have murdered people. Such a senseless argument. People often confuse between permission, ijazat, and raza, which is approval. Nothing happens without the permission of Allah. But that doesn't mean that things that are happening or people are doing, that has raza, that has approval of Allah. So remember, ijazat and raza are two separate things. Or have we given to them a book before this and they are adhering to it? So despite major alteration in Torah and Injil, yet elements of shirk cannot be found in them. Instead, they say, we have found our fathers on a certain way and we are on their footprints fully guided. Every misguided man, every misguided community finds, that they find on, for which they have no support, they will always blame their forefathers. ये तो हमारे ख़ानदान की रिवायत है, that people say this is part of our family tradition. Similarly, we did not send a warner to a town before you, but its affluent people said, we have found our fathers on a certain way, and certainly we are following their footprints. He said, even if I bring to you something better in guidance than that on which you have found your fathers, they said, we totally disbelieve in what you are sent with. So when people are reminded of un-Islamic ceremonies and rituals that they do in their homes, in the society, in the communities, Muslims celebrate the Soyams, the Chalisman, the Quran Khwanis, the Milads, whatever they do, they respond, our Bab Dadas were doing like this. We always have seen these ceremonies being done. فَانْتَقَمْنَا مِنْهُمْ فَانْظُرْ كَيْفَ كَانَ عَاقِبَةُ الْمُكَذِّبِينَ. So this is the last ayat. So we took revenge from them. Now look how was the end of those rejected. So in the end, fine, you can do what you want to do, that's fine. At the end, it's your funeral and you need to worry about that more than anything else. So barakallahu lana wa lakum fil Quran al-Azim wa nafana wa iyyakum bil ayati wa zikril hakim.